This is Smiles TV. Welcome to Smiles TV. I'm Stephanie Anthony Miles, and you're watching the best community affairs broadcast in the land. We are at the Jackie Joyner Kersey Center in East St. Louis, Illinois. And our guest today is a dynamic lady. Her name is Dr. Faye Williams, and she's an attorney. She is also the national president of the National Congress of Black Women. She has a book that we really want you to get, and it's called Dick Gregory, Wake Up and Stay Woke, Running for Life. Remember, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. He was crucified and buried, and he rose on the third day. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. Believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, and thou shalt be saved. Stay tuned for more Smiles.
The Smiles television talk show wants to showcase your business, organization, church, and activities. If you have an interest in being a guest on Smiles television talk show, or if you have any show ideas, contact Stephanie Anthony Miles at SmilesTV777@gmail.com. You may also call 618-741-3770. Tell your friends to subscribe to the Smiles YouTube channel. Let Smiles TV increase your reach. Remember, you look better with smiles.
Radio talk show host, author, human rights activist, ordained minister, professor, teacher, businesswoman, attorney, journalist. We're talking about Dr. Faye Williams, Esquire. Dr. Faye Williams is the national president and CEO of the National Congress of Black Women and former counsel to the United States Congress's District of Columbia Subcommittee on Judiciary and Education. Dr. Williams is a former professor of international law at Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge. She previously served as chief of staff for the late Marion. Dr. Williams is a former teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District. She served President Barack Obama as a member of his Presidential Scholars Commission. Dr. Williams is currently a board member of the World Conference of Mayors. Dr. Williams has a new book out, and it's entitled Dick Gregory, Wake Up and Stay Woke, Running for Life. During a book signing event hosted by the Noah's Ark Publishing Company and held at the Jackie Joyner Kersey Center in East St. Louis, Illinois, Dr. Williams expounded on her platonic friendship with Dick Gregory. Her book, Dick Gregory, Wake Up and Stay Woke, Running for Life, tells many interesting stories of Dick Gregory's life as an unwavering activist, political humorist, health enthusiast, and purveyor of good music. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for joining us on Smiles TV.
Thank you for inviting me, and what a beautiful title for a show.
Smiles TV, you know, I tell people God is turning my miles into smiles.
All right.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about you. So, Dr. Williams, tell us a little bit about your friendship with Mr. Gregory.
Well, I met him some years ago in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, when I was running for the United States Congress in my home state. And he came to Baton Rouge to visit with his daughter, who was at Louisiana State University at the time. So he came to my event that I had in Baton Rouge, and of course he heard me constantly saying, my mother taught me this, or my mother taught me that. So after I spoke, he came up to do his remarks, and he said, I don't know, I got to meet your mother. My children don't listen to that much of what I say. The only time I can talk to them is when I put my chair in front of the refrigerator, and of course they show up at some time or other. I have known him since then. I moved back to Washington, and he spent much of his time in Washington, D.C. also. So one night, out of the clear blue, after we'd gotten back, and I'd only met him the one time, he called me and asked me to pick him up in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, if you know about Baltimore, you don't want to be running around in Baltimore all by yourself. But he was so charming when he asked me to do it. I finally agreed to do it on a Friday evening when traffic is just absolutely crazy. I went to his hotel to pick him up, And as everyone can tell you, he was not ready when I got there, so I had to wait for hours for him. But on the way back, we talked, we got a chance to know each other, and he started bringing people to my home to teach them how to make veggie burgers. Now, he would put a lot of cheese on it, so I don't know whether the burger was healthy or not by the time he put all the cheese on it. But people kept coming to get those cheeseburgers that he was making. And once he finished showing them how to do that, we had to wash the dishes. So he decided he would show me how to wash dishes, which is a surprise to Lil and all the rest of the family that he would know how to wash dishes. But he told me he learned to wash dishes when he was in the military. And you know, you have to do things there that you normally wouldn't do. So he said, first of all, you got to rinse them off. Just put them on the faucet and rinse them. And then you've got to put them in some water in the sink, put a little Clorox in it, and let them soak for a while to make sure there are no germs. Then you put them in the dishwasher. Well, of course, my question was like the one, the little girl on that ad that says, well, what is the dishwasher for? They seem to already be clean by the time you do that. So that's how I met him, and we became best friends and running buddies from that time on.
Wow, okay, the title of the book, Wake Up and Stay Woke, Running for Life. Tell me from your heart, what is the meaning of that?
Well, of course, everybody knows the meaning of Dick Gregory. That's the first part of it. Wake up and stay woke. He was always concerned about our being involved in our own freedom, in doing things for ourselves and for our people. So that's what he meant by wake up. And then he wanted to remind us to stay woke, because when we kind of back off, when we go to sleep, you know, things begin to happen. And that's just like now, you know, many of the things we thought we had in terms of rights, whether it's voting rights, human rights, what have you, the rights against police brutality, you know, that much of that is going on now because some people kind of fell asleep. They thought we had it made. But for sure, we've got to work for those same rights all over again, and that's what we're doing these days. Now, the last part of it, running for life, we know that he was a track star at Southern Illinois University, and he ran track. He's very well known on the campus of Southern Illinois University. When we told them about the book, they were so excited that I would be choosing to come to the school where he went to school. There are some very funny stories they'll be hearing about from Mr. Gregory when he was at Southern Illinois University, one of which I'd just like to tell you. When he got out of the Army, he had to tell them what his address was, where he was going. And he just put down Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, Illinois. And he went back to the university, thought that he was going to go back and stay in school for a while, but he decided that wasn't his style. He left soon after he got there. But before he was leaving, he decided he couldn't just leave. He had to have some place he was going from there. So he went to the telegram office. You know, we used to send telegrams. Right. We didn't have all the things we have today. So he knew Nancy Pelosi's brother, and they went to the place and got a telegram sent to Dick. I always call him Mr. Gregory, you know, but Mr. Gregory. And no one ever noticed that they had sent the telegram right there from Carbondale stating that he should come to Baltimore because there's a $25,000 job that, you know, he would have once he got there. And Speaker Pelosi's brother, you know, said, I'm from Baltimore, my dad's the mayor, so we can do this. So they took this telegram around, they showed it to the president, they showed it to everybody on campus who never noticed it came right there from Carbondale because, you know, he had to have some good reason he was leaving at that point. So I always thought that was the funniest story. And whenever Speaker Pelosi would see Mr. Gregory, she would give him a big hug and whisper something in his ear, and I think it had to do with his helping to save, you know, her brother as they were in the Army together. And that's funny, too, to think that Dick Gregory would save somebody from mischief because we know how much he could do.
You know what, I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Gregory. It's been about 7, 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he did a broadcast with us, and he called and said, is it possible to get a crew together? I think it was about 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm. It never matters. Time meant nothing to him.
And I told him, I said, we can get a crew together. Mm-hmm. And we did. Mm-hmm. And we had a great interview. His brother, Ron Gregory, was a part of that broadcast as well. And his brother is here as well today. Let me ask you this. What do you really want people to gain from your
Well,
life?
you know, everybody I think knows him as a comic, but I wanted people to know he was more than a comic. He was so much more than a comic. he could, but he could make you laugh even at a funeral or at a sad occasion. He could make you laugh when you weren't in the mood for laughing. He could always find something funny to say, but he was much more. He was a nutritionist. He was so concerned about people's health. And everywhere I go now, there are people who remind me that he taught them to do a simple thing like drink more water. No matter where they are, who they are, they will remember that one thing. And of course, he taught people how to take vitamins, which vitamins to take. The book, in fact, includes that regimen of vitamins that he suggested people take. And he would always say, if you're not hungry, don't eat. It's simple, you know, because many people were worried about their weight. He would say, well, if you're not hungry, don't eat. And when he did eat, he took hours to eat. He might sit at the table and start eating. He might call 5 or 10 people before he was finished. He might take a nap before he was finished eating. So he didn't just eat his food real fast, you know. And he always said, if you're in a hurry and you don't have time to eat, then don't eat. But that's a lesson all of us could take.
You're right about that. He actually told me, because I was starting to have problems with my knees, he said, you're not drinking enough water. I said, well, how do you know that? He said, trust me, you're not drinking enough water. And he's right. I went back, I started drinking more, and I did feel better.
And he would always tell you about when you say, I can't walk real good because my knee is hurt. He said, I'll just walk the way you do when you go to the liquor store, when you go to the casino. That'll do. As I said, he could joke about anything.
Yes, ma'am. Where are you headed from here?
We're going to Carbondale. We're going to Southern Illinois University, where he spent a lot of his time and where he is just so praised on the campus. They were so excited when I said that we were going there. We've had several interviews there. I think they've bought a batch of books already. They are just looking forward to our visit today, so we hope they won't be disappointed. And they want us to tell them about some of the things he experienced when he was at Southern Illinois University. And I'm going to tell them the good and the bad, because there was both when he was there.
There is a quote in your book, and I may not quote it verbatim, but I'll give you the meaning that I got from the quote, that Mr. Gregory wanted people to remain lovable,
yes.
And also kind, or something of that nature.
Yeah, well, he always said that it's more important to be lovable than it is to be loved. You know, most people look for love, often in the wrong places, but if you're lovable, then that is better for you, because you don't have to be fearful, you don't have to be angry, you don't have to do hatred, you don't have to do jealousy, because those are the things that impact your health, not the person you know you're hating on or angry on, but you want to stop doing these things so that they will not hurt you. And if you stop doing them against yourself, then you're more apt not to do those things with other people.
There was something else that he said too, that he wanted America to live up to the promises. Can you tell us a little bit about those promises, and has America done that?
Well, of course, you know, he challenged a lot of things, including America and what America said that it would do, that, you know, all of us are created equal, etc. And then, of course, when we got, you know, that guy who's gone now from the White House, he always brought a lot of hatred, a lot of anger, a lot of all kinds of, you know, bad things or negative things to the world. He never really tried to get along with countries that had been friends with us. So he wanted us to make sure that we remain lovable. And when that guy, whose name I won't call, says, "Make America great again," his response always was, "You act like America was once great."
I was intrigued to find out that you have a radio broadcast named in remembrance of Mr. Gregory.
Absolutely. Actually, he was on the board of directors at the station where I have the program. It's WPFW-FM 89.3. While we broadcast out of Washington, D.C., it goes all over the world. So people know him everywhere. You'd be surprised. I mean, things about him are known in Lithuania and Croatia and all kinds of places. So he's very popular, not just in the United States, but all over the world. There's also a book that has come out, one of his, in Japanese lately, and also in Croatian.
Wow, that is very good information to have.
Yes.
In addition, there's a television broadcast that's going to be aired fairly soon. Am I correct?
Absolutely. At the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. I think the name of it is the one and only Dick Gregory. They're doing that Saturday, and strangely, it's on the 19th of June.
Wow. Okay.
And then, of course, the following week on 4th of July weekend. In fact, on the day of 4th of July, it will be shown all across the world. So we're looking forward to it. And I have a little part in it.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
And let's see, Kevin Hart is the executive producer of it. I think Dave Chappelle is in it, and many of the comedians who honored Mr. Gregory so much, they've come together and helped to put this together for him. I was speaking with Trevor Noah, and he indicated that Mr. Gregory taught him a lot, and he admires Mr. Gregory. And I can talk with almost any, or read about any comedian, and they're going to go to it. They're going to talk about Mr. Gregory. It doesn't matter who it is. They know him, and they were influenced by him.
How excellent is that?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You are the president, the national president of the National Congress of Black Women.
You know, Black women, we can and we have to do many more things. In terms of the radio program, the last words I heard him say was on a Saturday, the Saturday, in fact, that he left us. People were in this room, they were talking loudly, they were walking all around, and the television was on, showing some challenges we were having in the country at that time, from Virginia, if you remember, Charlottesville, and they weren't listening to what was being said, and he just yelled, "Shut up." He used a salty word in between, and listen, you can't learn anything if you're talking all the time. You got to wake up and stay woke. So those were the last words I heard him say, because later in the afternoon, when the doctors came in and said, we just found out what's wrong with you, and we're going to have to take you over to another hospital in order to have surgery. At which time I think he just decided he was not going through with the surgery. Christian, his son, went downstairs with him, and before they got to the transport vehicle, he had left us already. Yeah, and then the next morning, I was scheduled to do the message at my church, and I was so teary, so choked up, I just didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just kept thinking about him and what he would have done, because you know he always talked about the show must go on. So I got to the church, and when I was called on, I saw his driver at the back of the room who was just telling me to breathe, just breathe, and I kept doing that. And when I stopped, I just told one of his jokes, and when I told his joke, I was ready. Yeah, before that, I had been so concerned about what I was going to say or do. But he would always assure you that you could do anything if you just try. You know, you shouldn't have fear, because fear and God do not occupy the same space. And I kept remembering that, and I made it through that. But then once that was over and I went home, people were calling me from all over the world, because they knew we were best friends and running buddies, you know. And they were calling me, asking if it were true. First of all, nobody believed it. We thought Dick Gregory was going to live forever, you know. And in many of our lives, you know, in our spirits, he does live on, because he left so much behind for people to learn from what he did. And I wrote that book because I wanted people to understand he was more than a comedian. He was so much more, did so many more things, and was never afraid to do anything. He didn't even have a bodyguard, you know, because he believed fear and God do not occupy the same space.
And I know you're a minister, and that reminds me of the scripture. God has not given us the spirit of fear.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
power, love, and a sound mind.
Yeah, well, that's the one I have to work on too. I mean, I know that one, but you know, even those of us who know the Bible, we have to work on those things. Yeah. But with him, he was like, you know, don't be angry, don't be fearful, don't be jealous, don't hate, because those things impact your health. And he would remind us of that, and that water. He never forgot to remind people to drink enough water.
Yes, ma'am. Immediately following this interview, I had the opportunity to interview Ron Gregory, Mr. Gregory's brother, and he's been on Smiles Television a few times, and so we're grateful to have him again. Wonderful. Where can people get your book?
Well, if they were at one of our events, they could get them and I could sign them. But since all of them won't be there, they can go to Amazon.com. That's Amazon.com, and just look for Dick Gregory, Wake Up and Stay Woke. And I think everyone is going to read this book all around the world, and when they see the film reminding them who Dick Gregory was, they will certainly want the book. And we came to St. Louis, you know, because we know he's a favorite son of St. Louis, so we had to come here. We're going to Carbondale for the same reason, because they worship him on that campus in Southern Illinois. And
we're so glad that you came to St. Louis, but you're actually now in East St. Louis, Illinois, and we're right across the river for a lot of people who may not know that. But we thank you for taking time with Smiles Television Talk Show. Is there anything that you would like to share in conclusion that we have not had the opportunity to talk about?
Well, let's see. in the book, I don't want to tell everything because then nobody wants to buy the book if I tell them everything. But there's so many things in the book, some about his humor, of course. I could hardly resist doing that. But also to talk about his growing up. Many people say, well, how did you two get to be friends? And I said, well, we had similar backgrounds, actually. We were poor. We didn't know we were poor, at the time, but we didn't have a lot of resources, is a better word to say it, because we were certainly, not poor in many areas. We always wanted to share. We were never afraid to do things for our people, even if it were going to hurt us somehow, because he had to leave his, his comedy for a number of years where he was working in the civil rights and the human rights movement. And he had to give up so much money and everything in order to do what he believed our people needed at that time. Mm-hmm. So that's what he would want people to know, that don't be afraid ever to do something that needs to be done or that you should be doing. And one of the things is we never charged people for the advice we gave them, for all the picketing we would do. And in terms of picketing, we kept signs in the back of our cars so we could pass down the street, see somebody picketing. Mm-hmm. We just asked them what it was for. They would tell us, and we said, oh, yeah, we support that issue. We'd run back to the car, get one of the signs out. It's a generic sign, whether it was peace, whether it was for higher pay, whether it was for women's rights or whatever. He was famous for participating in that women's march a long, long time ago, many years ago. So he was just a person who was so giving, mm-hmm. and we would do so many things together. Walking, of course. I got up to 5 miles, a day. Okay. I'm a little bit down from that now, but walking was like a religion for him, mm-hmm. and it became so for me.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Williams, for talking with me on Smiles Television Talk Show. Get the book, Dick Gregory, Wake Up and Stay Woke, Running for Life.
But I want to remind you, as Dick Gregory would have reminded you, all of our people, we need to wake up and stay woke about a lot of issues that he worked for.
Thank you again, Dr. Williams. Dr. Faye Williams, Esquire, has been a close family friend of the Gregorys for many years. As a matter of fact, Dick Gregory's brother, Dr. Ron Gregory, is here to chat with Smiles TV. Dr. Ron Gregory is a proud alumni and National High School 1-mile record holder of Sumner High School in the city of St. Louis, Missouri. Dr. Ron Gregory serves as a board member of the National Black Radio Hall of Fame, Don and Hyde Wolf Jazz Institute, and the Art Gallery at Harris Stowe University. Dr. Ron Gregory has given his life to the needs of inner city St. Louis and to the people who live there. Ron has served as a teacher, mentor, civil rights activist, and positive role model. Today, Dr. Ron Gregory is excited to share his thoughts about the book written by Dr. Faye Williams entitled Dick Gregory, Wake Up and Stay Woke, Running for Life. What are your thoughts about the new book?
Dick was an amazing individual, mm-hmm. and things have to be done to keep his things that he's done alive, mm-hmm. and well, for people who will be able to understand who Dick Gregory was and what he meant to the world. And this book by Dr. Williams will give people a tremendous insight, because she was a very, very close friend of Dick, and she was in her book, she's able to tell people things about Dick, mm-hmm. that a lot of people didn't know. That it's a different side of Dick that people will find through that book.
Your brother's life, how is his life impacting us today?
I think a lot of the things that he talked about, he almost predicted that America would elect a guy like Donald Trump, and he also predicted that if we were not careful, something like the pandemic would come. Mm-hmm. And both of these things came to fruition. And I think by virtue of the fact that people had listened to Dick, a lot of them knew how to deal with it. I think had a lot of people had not been on his diet regimen and had not been dealing with vitamins and minerals, the death rate, especially in the black community, would have been much higher. If you come in my house, my nutrition pantry looks like most people's bar, you know, with the different vitamins and minerals and things like that. And I keep a case of water in my car when I drive around to drink. So he had a tremendous impact, not just in his family, not just on his friends, but he had a tremendous impact on the whole world.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I want to thank you, Mr. Gregory, for taking time just to share a few quotes with us. And I want to thank you for tuning into Smiles Television Talk Show. Remember, only what you do for Christ will last, and Jesus is the Lord. The Lord be magnified.